Well, good morning. Thank you, Charles, for letting me in.
Well, you're very welcome. How are you?
A little bit older than yesterday.
A little better than yesterday?
A little bit older.
You're
Oh,
a
I
little older.
remember that picture of that house. That tree is not there anymore.
Remember the picture of what?
That house in that part, that hiding corner of the thing.
Yeah.
And I remember one tree is not there anymore. I don't know if this one or the other one.
Yeah, the tree is gone now. Yep. Unfortunately, it has gone away. Anyway, happy Friday, everybody.
Yeah.
Hello.
Friday.
Good.
Is that a photograph of you?
Yes, that is a
It's
photo.
fabulous.
Oh, okay.
It is
Actually-
colorful. You look great. It's perfect.
Okay. Well, thanks. Actually, a professional photographer who worked for a travel, he works as a freelancer for a series of travel magazines, but he took that of me for the Sandy Springs Board of Tourism or whatever it is, you know. Anyway,
Could you email that to us? Could you email that? No?
I
Yeah.
like the hat.
I'd like to have that.
you'd like to have that, huh?
I'd
Okay.
like to have that. That's a fabulous picture of you.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, it's a good promo piece. Yeah, he was nice enough to shoot a couple of shots of me while I was out there for me, because I had agreed to kind of pose for his article that he was doing on Lost Corner. For
How
you know,
recent was
The
that?
lost corner.
Well, it's great.
How
Pardon?
recent is that photo?
that's last year. It's
Mm.
2019.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I like your jacket. I like
Yeah.
Everything is
Yeah.
your
we were out
jacket,
there.
your hat,
Yeah.
and your painting. It's just, he did a beautiful job.
Yeah. He's good at what he does. It was nice running into him out there. Anyway, let's
Is that Stetson? Is that what it's called? Stetson?
it's actually not it's kind of in that style, but it's kind of like an Indiana Jones hat, you know, which is,
Yeah.
basically a stick.
I like it too.
But yeah, this one, yeah, I really like. That's one of my favorite painting hats. Anyway, moving on. Move forward. Okay, it's Friday. How's everybody doing?
Great.
Okay.
Good.
Okay, so I have a couple things I want to talk about. First of all, did everybody get my email that I sent them this morning?
Yes.
Yeah, I did. Yes.
Okay, good. Yeah, because I sent a link for this morning's class and this afternoon's class just in case, so that everybody would have a link for it. Okay. Now-
Charles, I didn't get your link. It's me, Fran. Can you send that link to me?
I'll
think
be
that's
happy to.
all.
Yeah.
Thank you.
In between classes. Okay.
Great.
Do you get my emails most of the time?
Yeah, I got the last one I got with showing me the guidelines for portrait.
Okay. All right.
But
yeah,
I didn't get the one that you're talking about.
Okay. Well, I sent one out this morning, and attached to it was a PDF, but it also had 2 links. Okay, and they were for this afternoon's class and this morning's class. But I'll be happy to send that, as soon as class is over. Okay.
Great. Thanks, Charles.
Okay. And also, what I wanted to mention to you, and I mentioned it in my email, is that today is the last day that we have classes scheduled on Zoom. All right. Now, what I'm going to be doing over the weekend is I'm going to set up a series of 8 more weeks of classes. Okay. And then I will send out an email, and it will have those links for the next 8 weeks. Okay. Nothing's going to change as far as times, things like that. We're going to keep everything pretty much so exactly the same. And I should be sending that out probably, if not late today, probably in the morning. But sometime between now and the weekend, the end of the weekend, you're going to get an email, and it's going to have those links. and it's not going to be on Monday morning, right? So check your email, make sure you get it. Like I said, save those links somewhere on your computer where you can get to them, Armando. Okay.
I got it.
And that way, you know, you won't have problems connecting. All right.
And there will be a class Monday morning?
There will be. Yes.
Good.
Yeah, we are going to continue on just as we have been. Okay. Yeah. There's, you know, no sense in stopping now, right?
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Now, after this 8 weeks, and I think if I'm guessing right, it's August. That's probably in like the middle, well, probably the end of September. All right, I'm going to be taking a little bit of vacation, and I'll be gone for a couple of weeks. Okay,
That's good.
but then when I come back, you know, I'll start classes again. Okay.
Can we go with you?
Can you go with me? Well, if you want to fit into a car and a lot of canvases and paint gear, you're more than welcome to tag along. I'm going to be sleeping outside along the road, and I'm going to go out and do kind of a little bit of plein air painting for about.
Well, you should be doing a virtual event so we can progress with you.
Well, you know, I mean, that's an idea too. In fact, while I'm doing it, I'm probably going to be doing a bit of filming and stuff so that when I come back, it's stuff that I can post and share. Okay.
Go to Alaska.
I'm not going that far. Yeah.
You can bring back some fresh salmon.
Well, I could. Well, that time of year, yeah. Around that time of year, yeah, the silver salmon and stuff run, you know, in the rivers up there. So it'd be good. At any rate, you know, unfortunately, from what I understand out west, I might be bringing back a couple of bears. You know, bears have made a big comeback out there, and in fact, in the state of Montana, I think in the last couple of weeks, four different hunters attacked bears. So.
Black bear is edible.
Well, yeah, they don't taste good. I've had bear before. They're a bit salty and chewy. At any rate, let's get to talking about art. All right. So if you guys got the email from me, then that means that you got the PDF file, right?
Right.
Okay. And did anybody open that up and look at it?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Of course.
Okay. So I'm going to go over the process that I'm using here. And now this is using a set of pastel sticks. And these are, they call them soft pastel. I don't really consider them soft pastel. I'd say they're kind of not really hard, not really soft. They're somewhere in between. And they're the alpha color pastels. You know, they're good general use pastels. The reason I bought them though was that they came in a grayscale set. So it started off with white being a number 1 or 0, if you will, and then number 12 being black, right? So you've got a series of grays there, and they're all the same temperature. Oftentimes when you go out and you buy these sets, you'll have half the set will be shifted to the warm, kind of more brownish or whatever, greenish. And then the other half will be kind of these more almost bluish grays. And I've bought those before. I've tried using them, but you know, the problem is, unless you want to do a drawing with that temperature change as well as the value change, then they're not really all that useful, okay? But these particular pastels, the set, the thing I liked about it was that they're all this kind of neutral gray. And, you know, they weren't expensive. You know, they're easy to find. And, you know, like I said, the great thing is that, here, let's use this one right here. You know, is that they have that set of 12, and you know, they're a good set to use to do your what I would call the first pass. Okay, on your pastel drawings, you know, or paintings. And by the way, pastel as a medium is considered a painting medium. It's not really a drawing medium. But, you know, the great thing about pastel, and you know, many, many years ago when I first started studying with Antonio Manni, he first had me use charcoal, and then he moved me into pastels. And the thing I've always loved about pastel, even though they are a very dangerous material to use as an art material, is the fact that it is so much, you know, like the process of drawing. You know, you're not using brushes and mediums and things like that. You know, you're taking a stick and you're actually making marks and, you know, filling in areas, things like that. So,
Charles,
yes.
is this a Trump oil?
No, well, no,
Okay.
this is a photograph.
Okay. Okay.
And this is the still life that I set up here in my studio. All right.
Okay.
So I peeled an orange, you know, I took that, it's actually a sea urchin. And then a coffee set. I collect antique arts and crafts, metalwork, furniture, textiles, things like that. So this is part of my collection. And then I threw in that wine glass so that we had something that was transparent.
Okay.
All right. So just, you know, kind of run you through it. This was the overall setup. Now I have this plaster piece mounted on the wall in my studio. And, you know, the idea is I wanted to set that surface right at my eye level, right? So I'm really looking at the end of that board, pretty much so straight on. And if you go back and look historically at, like, for example, the Dutch, German, and Flemish masters, when they were doing still lifes, that was pretty common, you know, where the actual level of the table was really right at their eye level. Okay, so they weren't really dealing with the perspective on the table itself. You know, it was just the overlapping shapes of the objects. Anyway, so a detail shot, you know, there's the orange. The glass. This is a coffee pot. This coffee pot was probably made, it was made in England or Scotland, and it was probably around about 1880, 1890 when it was made. And it's pewter, not silver. This is basically the sugar bowl that goes with it as part of the set. This is the set of the alpha, you know, pastels that I used, right? And as you can see, there's 12 pastels. You know, you get the white here, the black here, and then I've got them set up pretty much so in order.
Could you send that? Could you send that the name of it and where you got it so we could get it too?
Sure.
Thanks.
Yeah. And then of course I supplemented that with a graphite pencil, a piece of the Rembrandt white pastel, and a piece of compressed charcoal and a kneaded eraser. So that's all the tools that I used, okay? So my very first step was, you know, looking at the objects and then doing kind of a rough layout. Now I could have done this in charcoal, but I chose to do it in pencil, okay, in graphite. And that was an ebony pencil, which is about a number 6 or 8B. So it's a very soft graphite. Now you got to be careful with that graphite pencil not to bear down real hard, because you don't want to put like a, you know, a track or an impression, you know, into the paper. So just very lightly, you know, you're just very lightly sketching it out. And, you know, in that PDF, you know, one of the things I explained to you was, while you're doing this, this is probably the most important step in the whole process, okay? This is the one that you want to spend your time on. And it's not, it comes out looking really pretty and stuff, but it's that you want to be accurate. You want to be accurate about the sizes, the shapes, and the proportion of things, where they're sitting in relationship to each other. because this is really your one chance in this to get this right. And if it's not right at this stage, you don't need to move forward. You need to, correct things until you get things where you really want them, okay? From there, I started off, and this would be like a number 9 pastel chalk, right? So it's a dark, right? It's not black, but it is a dark. And I just started off with that to begin to lay in, just those basic areas of where the shadows were. And notice that, as I did that, I'm not worried about filling these areas in solidly or anything. In fact, you can use it a lot like charcoal in the sense that you can kind of hatch in, just a little bit of tone to begin to get some value changes with it. But what you're really doing here is you're really trying to separate out what's on the light side of the object versus the shadow side. And you're trying to define both of those areas and make it real clear what those are, right? Now, if you look at the contrast, between the background paper and the medium looks, really dark, okay, at this stage. It looks like a very strong dark, against this lighter paper. Well, it's kind of an illusion in the sense that the paper is not really all that light. It's about a number 2 or 3 value in gray. And the dark, the number 9 in a 12 value step, is a dark, but it's not like a really extreme dark, okay? And so from there, I went to the next piece of chalk, and this is this is the number 12, which is as dark as you can get, in this medium, and it's pretty much of a black, it's pretty much of a true black, and you begin to add that in, and all of a sudden, those areas that looked really dark against the black in contrast don't look so dark now. Right? And so you begin to see the contrast, forming. And it's like, what, 3 steps over? So it's considerably darker than that number 9 value. And so it pushes that number 9 really into, it's still on the dark side, but it's heading more toward, a mid-tone. So from there, I went the opposite direction, and I went with about a number 4 in the value scale. Hey, doggy. And I began to fill in the light side, all right? And with the addition of that additional value, and see, I've got 3 values down now, just 3, okay? Remember, I started with a number 9, I put a 10 down, now I've got a 4. And then I've got the color of the paper itself, right? Or, about a number 2 or 3 value. Now, with that number 4 added in, all of a sudden, this begins to take on some actual mass and weight, right? I mean, it's not really turning the form yet, but it's beginning to give those sort of indications and illusions that these are not flat 2-dimensional objects anymore. All of a sudden, they're beginning to feel kind of like they have a little bit of weight to them and that they could actually be dimensional, right? And that's why I say, it's really critically important, when you're blocking in your paintings to get to that point where you get to that 5 value step, right? Where you've got 5 values down there. And with those 5 values, you can actually turn form, okay? In other words, you can make something look actually 3-dimensional. So now I'm going back and I'm picking up a pastel that's really in the mid-tones. And this is about I guess a number 7. Let's see, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, yeah. Yeah, it's about, well, I think it's either about a number 6 or a number 7 in the value scale. And again, you know, I'm just going back in and laying in another value. And again, you know, that one step, you know, just adding that little bit in there, you know, begins to build up more subtlety, you know, in those shapes and forms. And these begin to start, you know, again, feeling, you know, more dimensional. Now I'm going back, you know, working on the dark side, you know, still in the shadows. And again, you know, this is about a number, number 7 or 8. Again, you know, going back in, refining it a little bit more. And it's beginning to take on, again, you know, a little more form in there. Now, up until this point, you know, I haven't taken like my finger or anything or any kind of like stump and blended anything. I'm just laying the color down, you know, or the values down. And I'm just blocking, you know, I'm just putting in big blocks and shape. Now, the reason that I'm not taking a lot of time to do any like real refined rendering at this point is my goal is I want to get something on the paper that's representative of the range of value and contrast that I'm going to have in the final piece, right? And it's like, you know, once I get all of this down there, then I can go back in and I'll start refining these areas and, you know, going back and building up, you know, more and more medium, you know, on the surface and trying to, you know, final these things. So, you know, at this point, I'm picking up, you know, what, you know, Alpha would, you know, consider their white. Now, here's the thing I found about this white, and it was really kind of disappointing to me, in the fact that it's really not all that bright. I would say it's got, you know, from actual real white, I would say it's really about a number 1 value. You know, it's got some gray in it, right? And so the, you know, it was good for beginning to, you know, push some of it fairly light. And I mainly used it, you know, on the objects itself. But I wasn't really satisfied with the contrast yet. So I went ahead and started using that white piece of Rembrandt soft pastel. And the Rembrandt is truly a soft pastel. You know, it's really almost kind of buttery in texture compared to those Alpha, you know, pastels. So, you know, I've got, you know, now that I use that white in there, it kind of punch things up, you know, I've got a really kind of at a good place right now with this. So I've got my values in place, you know, I've got my proportions, I know where my objects are, and, you know, I can keep, you know, futzing with this and, you know, refining it and trying to like blend areas, things like that. But at this point, you know, I was pretty much so finished with what I would call the first of 3 passages, you know, on this piece. And, you know, again, this is one of the things I want to emphasize to all of you. It's not instant. You know, it's not like you do it one time and you're done. You know, it's a process. So you see, I'm laying in my values, I'm beginning to get my shape, you know, the forms are beginning to evolve and emerge, you know, out of the drawing or painting. And so now at this point, I stopped. And so what I had to do at this point is I needed to fix it, right? Now, you can buy, you know, cans of spray fixative for your charcoal drawings, pastels, things like that, and use them. And there's nothing wrong with using those fixatives. They work well. The thing is, they tend to, you know, run about $8 to $10, you know, on average for the cost of that spray can. Now, you can spend that $8 to $10, or my suggestion is you go to the dollar store and you buy a cheap can of Aquanet or some other cheap hairspray. they're basically the same thing. The difference with Aquanet is it has a more pleasant smell. And it will cost you like $1.49 or, less than $2, where that can of spray fixative will cost you, like I said, about $7 or $8. So if you want to save yourself a few bucks, you can do that. But also the Studio, when you spray that fixative, it has a bit of a chemical smell to it. And that's one of the, now I'm not saying that Aquanet doesn't have maybe even those very same chemicals, but they put something in there that makes it smell, much more pleasant. And you don't, have this chemical smell floating around your house for half a day or so. Now I sprayed this and then I let it dry, overnight. So now at this point, all of that pastel is fixed in place, and I can go back in and I can begin to work on that surface again, making the second passage, of, this medium, and building it up, refining, the surface, the drawing surface, and really trying to get, some more of the subtlety and change in value, and also, bring out some of the texture, in these different surfaces so that they look like metal, or they look like glass, or, the surface of that shell or the skin of the orange. And so this is, a somewhat time-consuming process. The second passage, you really have to take your time with. And so I'll be, working on that maybe over the weekend, trying to develop it. And I'll share that stage with you. And you'll get to see how this, develops all the way through.
How much time did you spend getting this far?
This is about maybe 2 to 3 hours. Okay, about 2 to 3 hours. And, I'll probably spend another 3 to 4 hours, on the second passage of color and value. And then I'll fix it again, let that dry. And then that final passage, you're not really covering the whole drawing. All you're doing is just going in and really kind of punching up, your lighter values. Because what happens as you fix things with spray fixative is that the lights in particular kind of sink back a little bit and become darker. And so that final passage, you're just really bringing up the lights, to, again, get that contrast back. And you don't fix those. You just let those sit, on the surface. And then you frame it, mat it, get it under glass, and it should be good, for, depending on how long the paper will last, maybe 100 years or two, it'll last a really long time if you've got, a good quality drawing paper. Now, that doesn't work well with newsprint, because newsprint is a wood pulp paper, and it will degrade within about 30 years. It will literally, fall apart on you. So if you're going to take the time and invest the time really in, producing drawings, high quality drawings, then use a fairly good paper to do that with. All right, it's worthwhile. It will last a lot longer, and something will be around.
Charles, you
Yes.
don't have to spray it again after you go into the second passage.
Yes, you do.
Okay.
Yeah. As you build up this medium one layer over another, again, you want to fix it, and get as much of that material, basically fixed in place so it's not going to flake off. One of the things I love about pastel is that, that feeling, that really direct process of being able to put it down. And then also the fact that, because it is more like drawing, you really get in there and refine things and control it, pretty easily. The thing I don't like about pastels is the fact that you have to take all this time in framing it, and presenting it so that it will last, because it's a fragile medium, you know. The paper is sensitive to humidity and moisture. You spill your coffee on it, you're going to ruin your drawing. So you want to get it under glass, and you want to, put it in some kind of environment where it will last for a long time. And particularly if if you've got, 20 or 30 hours tied up in, a drawing like this, you want it to last for a while. That's nothing in comparison to spending 100 or 200 hours on an oil painting, but still it's a long time with this project. So you might as well, do it well and keep care of it. All right.
Charles, this is Bob.
Yeah, Bob.
Excuse me, I got a frog in my throat. Can I be a bit of a critic?
Sure. Yeah, be a critic.
Would you bring your drawing back up, please?
Sure. Uh-huh. Yeah.
And something bothers me about it a little bit from design's perspective.
Okay. All right.
The glass looks like it's growing out of the middle of the orange.
Yeah.
To me, I would have positioned it a little bit off center to give it a little,
That was bothering me.
Yes, it was bothering me.
Yes. And I don't blame it for bothering you. It bothered me too. And I'll tell you what I'm going to do about it. I'm not going to move it, but what I am going to do is, let me blow this up a little bit. And this is a good thing to talk about. See, this is where you can take a little bit of artistic license. What's happening right now is, in looking at this area right here, this does seem to be growing out of this orange, right? So what I want to do is I want to lighten the value through this area right here. In fact, make it almost like disappear. Just have like a really, really subtle indication of that glass being there, so that it doesn't really interfere, and feel, again, like it's growing out of that orange. So as I come back in with this second and third passage of pastel, let's see how successfully I can pull that off, okay?
Okay.
But that's kind of my intention right now, because, when I got to this stage and I spent a little bit of time looking at it, I agree with you. Okay. Yeah, that bothers me too, at this stage. But, there are things that we can do about it. And right now it's a matter of contrast. The glass right now has actually more contrast in value than the orange, and the orange is closer to me. So that really can't be, because the orange is closer to me, it would have to have a wider range of value and more contrast, than that glass. Right. So I've got some work to do on that, and we'll see how I fare with that. Anybody else got any questions or comments or anything else? No? Okay. All right. So we're down to about 6 whole minutes. I'm going to jump in and start showing you guys some of the work that was sent in. And we got some nice things, you guys are out there doing. Let me close that. Make that go away. There we go. And I'm going to run through a few of these. This is Fran.
Yep.
And this was a leaf study, that she did. And, it's very nice. The line is kind of whimsical and kind of loose. And she's got, a fairly nice change or variety of the weight and the way that she's used the line there. So that's headed in the right direction. I guess my question is, Fran, are you going to leave it just as a lineal drawing, or are you going to go any further?
No, just a lineal drawing.
Okay, yeah. And I mean, it's nice as it is, just as a little study. That's fine.
Yeah, just a study.
yeah, not everything has got to be, like totally finished. Now, this is a somewhat mischievous looking cat, so it's really more of a caricature of a cat than
Right.
Smiling, and they don't smile.
Yeah,
I got a secret.
yeah, but it definitely, yeah, it's like, okay, I ate the bird, but I'm not going to tell you yet.
Yeah, right.
And I particularly like the fact that the claws are out. It's kind of like he's sitting there picking at your carpet or whatever, and he's watching you watch him while he's doing it, and he knows that he shouldn't be doing it, but he's doing it anyway. Yeah, I've known cats like that. Thank you. But I mean, it's the drawing has a certain emotional appeal to it, and it's fun. It's somewhat kind of editorial. But yeah, it's a nice drawing, and
Thank you.
you captured a good expression on this guy. And then this drawing in particular I really like. And we talked about this a little bit. This is kind of awkward how close this guy is to this girl. It's like he's like bumped right up against her, and the only reason that I say that is that she's extended this foot and this leg of this guy down behind the foot of the girl. And if she really wanted him standing behind her, that foot may have ended somewhere up here, and then he would have stood behind her.
I'm not too sure, Charles, about that. He's like standing on like sideways, and she's in the middle.
Yeah.
So I'm not too sure if she was like, his foot was standing out, like he had his stance where he had his feet apart.
Yeah, spread out.
Yeah, spread out. So I'm not too sure about that.
Okay. But what I'm saying is, you see where the end of her feet are?
Yeah.
Okay. Which tells me that this foot right here is closer to me than she is. Okay. And for his foot to be going behind hers, that means that his knee and his leg really has to be almost up against her. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I'm not too sure how it would be because
Basically, if she stepped back, she would trip over his foot.
Yeah.
yeah,
But
because
even if he were standing, again, turned to the side, but he was standing, but he were, let's say where the guy is over on the left, right? As far back as him, then his foot wouldn't come that far down. Again, it would end somewhere back up here. And
what about if I made more space between her legs and his, not having it, so close together. I think that might be it better.
well, okay.
I don't think he's supposed to have his foot inside, like you're talking about. I think that I needed to push her a little bit more in.
Okay.
You see what I'm talking about?
Well, she is. She's, yeah, she's further away than his foot right
Yeah.
now. Okay. And that's
Her and the guy on the left are proportioned better than the one on the right. The one on the right doesn't seem. The guy on the right doesn't seem to be proportioned right.
Yeah, he seems. Yeah, he seemed to me seems a little long.
Yeah.
And again, she lengthened that foot. Where if again the bottom of this foot right here, if it ended up here and kind of went behind her pant leg, all right, that would be, to me, a little more credible, believable, because
Okay.
they're all standing there talking to each other.
No, I can't fix it. It's
Pardon?
you can't fix it because it's a marker.
Yeah,
The
but
way-
but I just wanted you to be aware of that. So,
Okay.
The point here is you have a picture plane, right? And as things move down